Okie dokie, let's try this again. I don't know what the big deal is sometimes here about connecting on live streams at my place, but sometimes there is quite a weird bunch of anomalies. Yeah. Ah, Simon's there. I see that you're there, Simon. So why don't we just call you up and see if you're there? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Paul should answer.
So I don't. Hello?
There he is.
All right.
I see you. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Simon Paul. Let me get a stable image here on my phone.
All right.
Apologies for not having a stable image. My phone is jacked, basically. I'm just going to hold it. You can hear me okay, Simon?
Yeah, totally.
What about everybody out there? Can you see us okay? That's weird. Even with my glasses on, sometimes I can't even read.
Right.
How about the rest of you?
There, and I disallowed the call for some stupid reason.
It probably knew it was me. So everyone can hear. I can see Joe's out there. I can see a few people are out there. That's nice. Hi. Highly human. So as you know, I am down here in the corner man, you call it. I got my buddy Ralph up here co-joining me. We've got the legendary Simon Paul in the hot seat today. Thank you for joining us, Simon. Connie's in the hood. Connie, settle. So basically, Simon's in Toronto, Canada.
That's right, and it's blistering hot today.
Really? So, what is blistering hot? Is that like what, 30?
Yeah, well, it's 20 plus. It's about 24 degrees. It's sunny, so it's just. And I'm in this room, and all my windows are closed because we have a street party going up down the street. So it was loud, and I haven't turned my air conditioner on yet.
I'm gonna try again to put my phone down so that we can not deal with my handshakes.
Nice.
So the reason I have some handshakes is that Rihanna made me do some shots of this last night. No, never again.
What? Do you have a full one?
Oh, she's like, did you hear what she said? Do you have a full one?
No, I'm curious. You said you only had one shot last night. Oh, you lied to me.
I had to hide that from you because otherwise she would have made us do it.
You lied to me.
So anyways, it's
well,
hot.
I got me an old style Pilsner for you and Steven.
Cheers to you on that. It's a little earlier here, so
Right.
I've got the green power going.
All right.
Hi Ryan Lampton, how you doing? So Simon, I want to jump right in.
All right.
People probably don't know how Simon and I met, and the cool thing is that it was for the album Inception.
Yeah.
And we put, I think, I was trying to think like how long ago that was. Is that 2001?
2001 or 2002, something like that. Yeah.
So we ran a, how was it? We ran some sort of like thing where on Litany or something, or how did we put the word out that there was going to be, we were going to take a bunch of submissions from people?
Yeah. I think lately people were bugging you to release more back and forth type material. And then eventually you did. You got peer pressured into it. And then you and Scott ran you basically were looking for submissions for cover art. So I thought, okay.
But I would say at least 20 or more people probably submitted art. And I picked yours wholeheartedly from the vibe that I felt from it. Oops, sorry people, there I am. Oh, you don't need to see me. You've seen me enough. You have never seen Simon though. Hi. And Simon won the choice of how that album was made, and then we did it again, I believe, for another. These were all part of the first Vault series.
Yep.
And then we ran another, I think, competition for the second one, or I can't remember, and you won again.
Yeah, it was the puppy gristle one.
Oh yeah, Poppy Gristle.
Yeah.
So there you go. So Simon, after that, I realized after I'd worked on a couple of records with Simon, how good he is to work with and how funny he is to work with, that we would always just naturally from this point on, Simon became the face of what would become the look for subcon. And pretty much every poster, pretty much every album cover, if it isn't co-designed with, say, someone like Alan Yeager or someone like that, it's usually entirely you.
Yeah.
And
a lot of the early ones too, where you or Phil would give me a bunch of photos, and then we'd kind of work based off of those, like all the kind of the hilt ones and 3 Steps Forward, things like that. You guys would submit, like, we got all these photos, let's make something out of this. So.
And that was always a fun way to work. And then we would see the end result and be like, wow, that was pretty amazing that you kind of like steered the vision the right way. Like all of the covers that you see, or as even Joe pointed out, he's got wicked tattoos on his arm of your designs from the Beyond the Vault, where you were started getting into the animated world of Download and Banana Sloth and all the rest of the characters, which is totally amazing. And then that leads us to now, where you've actually taken it to hardcover coming up now.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. The Sing While You May book is kind of like, did you know it when you first started drawing pictures to, say, what was the first one you did? Certain Stucky?
Yeah. That was the first one. And it was kind of like going back to The Secret Experiment. It was kind of like the first kind of where I got the idea of like, oh, I should do something with this in this kind of way. And I kind of put it off for years because life has a habit of getting in the way with things. And then last year, I'm like, you know what? I got some free time. I'm going to do one. I wanted to do You and Me and Rainbows, but it just seemed so huge that I wanted to start small and go with, so Certain Stucky was the first one. Yeah.
Well, I can certainly see why you would think You and Me and Rainbows would be huge, clocking in at 16 minutes long, and something like 7 mini sections and so on. Definitely was that your second one you did?
That was the third, because then I did the so Certain Stucky was like, I just had this visual in my head about this kind of atmosphere that was going on to Edward's words. And then the next one was 9 Shades to the Circle from the Pink Dots album that you were on. And I just liked the cyclical nature of the song, how it kind of kept going through these different days, it felt like, at least lyrically. So I kind of wanted to do something with that. So a little bit of repetition. And then by that point, I'm like, okay, let's do You and Me.
And it really looks good. Like, you showed me the rough print of it, and I was like blown away. Wow, this is like, oh good, you've got it. Yeah, no man, look at that. It's just full of goodies.
Yeah, so it's about 60 pages, I guess, with all the songs, because I added in what's the last one? I added in A Gift of Knowledge. And then that's about it. So I'm waiting for like the kind of the test press of that to come back in the next week or two, and then hopefully that will be available to start, getting out there.
You said a week or two, so you think like this is going to be a summer release?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I was aiming for, is something for the summer. So.
And I've seen that Edward is also totally behind it, and of course, any one of us is totally behind it, and it's good to see it coming to fruition this way. So, is there going to be a way that people can link and find out how to get it eventually? Are you gonna how you want to sell that thing?
Well, it's right now it's through a site called Blurb, and it's basically short run. So they do, like, if people will order it, then they basically hand make a book, send them out. You can buy you can buy bulk. Like if I wanted to, I could buy 100 and then kind of sell them, ship them off, kind of thing. Like the original Vault stuff. Like you guys would manufacture and then you pick it up and then send them out, right? Or
Yeah.
I could just let Blurb do the whole thing, and you can order directly through them. So I mean, I would post it through like different Facebook sites. Like there's a couple Legendary Pink Dots sites. There's Subcon Radio. There's all that stuff through my through my own website and whatnot, and through Instagram, etc.
And it's a big word of mouth thing these days too. So the Patreon crew, it would be, well, obviously awesome. You guys are onto the news early, so just spread the word out into the wild yonder there, where we all reach, and then put the word out about Simon's book, so that people can pick it up. Is it a limited edition?
Well, it's kind of print on demand, right? So I mean,
oh, cool.
So it could run like. That's the thing, is I didn't really know how well it would do, so I didn't want to get stuck with 1,000.
Right, yeah, absolutely. That's the way to do it.
Bucks. But it, at least if it's on demand, then it's not really that big of a deal. If 20 are sold, if it's 100, if it's like a lot more than that, then that'd be great and fantastic. Edward's been like great about it too. So
yeah, I'm super excited about it, and I'm anxious about that. And I was just thinking now, I think I'm going to hint at like something else here that even you don't know about. So people don't realize is that, of course, Simon's also helped me with Basil imagery as far as like the headers are concerned in the whole world that Basil kind of like gets put into by way of his ability of taking it and turning it into a comic with Basil. Well, the cool thing about that is through your drawings, that has given birth to an idea that Simon and I threw back and forth about toy number 2. And
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, here we go.
Cute.
So toy number 2, Simon and I have exchanged a few drawings, and I will say that this week it is the time when the actual next phase of design is actually happening. So I thought I'd bring you up to date. It's
So cute.
it's a new character, obviously, and it's probably going to be a cross between the one you spent an enormous amount of time detailing, almost in perfect nature, and then you quickly did a drawing of a group of characters, and then so on the left side there's a creature much like the creature, but it's a little more terrifying. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay, I think so. Okay.
I don't know if I can give it away. It's you guys can know about the toy, but you can't see it yet because it has to be a surprise. Let's say I gave it away by saying that it's a cross between the little more terrifying one and the one that's just exactly perfect. So
see, now I'm gonna check my Instagram and see which one that is.
yeah, well, I'll send you
I picked it as well.
what comes. Actually, Rihanna picked it as well. So that's new news to the wind right now that's next in line. But Simon, you also work on other projects too, don't you? You do graphics and album design for many artists, not just Subcon, right?
Yeah, I've done. Basically, at the exact same time I was working with you, I was working at Universal. So I've done stuff for like the Tragically Hip and a bunch of other bands, and I've also done the Ohm album, two Ohm albums. That's Chris Peterson and Craig Huxtable.
Well, I like those guys.
Ex of Frontline Assembly. So I've worked with those guys. Just a bunch of different ones. Actually, I just finished wrapping up the new Legendary Pink Dots album too.
Oh my God! Look at that, folks. You see that? You win a contest, and then the next thing you know,
Spirals out of control.
and that's the key here. You don't really have to win a contest. It's just like, what is your favorite tools to use when you approach making your art?
Everything starts kind of with like a little pencil sketch, usually. Or sometimes it's just a photograph I've taken, or just kind of an idea like that. But sometimes if it's character based, then I'll sketch something out, and then I'll go into my iPad into Procreate and kind of start tooling around with different layers and drawing something out of that. The certain Stucky, that was all mostly hand drawn, and then I bought an iPad Pro. And I was like, oh, this is like perfect for me because it's like this. I can undo.
So you mean you drew that with a felt pen or something like that when you mean hand drawn?
I bought like these, they're like these marker pens that, you know, they're, I don't know, where's this thing here? So it's all opposite. So it's like these like kind of, these little Japanese felt pens that have a cartridge. They're like a brush. And then you just draw them on board. So it's like, I don't know. So this kind of thing is actually the beginning house, right?
What, you drew that by hand?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Let's see that again.
So it's all.
Oh, I love that.
So it's like that.
Did you start with a photograph with that, or you just did that?
And then that is like, it's a house in my neighborhood that looks creepy as hell. And I'm like, I gotta use that in something. So like a lot of times I'll take photographs of places and use them as reference. So I'm always kind of starting with some kind of reference. And then kind of working off of that and building, and just basically building in layers.
So you were saying iPad. Does that mean that like you do a lot of stuff with your fingers on the iPad, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you just draw with a pen.
What type of apps do you like to recommend if you do?
On the iPad right now, I'm using Procreate, which is a stupid name, but it's great. It's like Photoshop. It's got a whole bunch of layers. You've seen probably a couple things on my Instagram where it actually records as you're drawing. So you can make like a little mini movie of the process of what's kind of going on.
Oh, wow.
And it's got a whole bunch of layers, and it's all like, you can make it all print size. So, you know, it's very flexible in that kind of way. And it was like kind of a difference of like taking something like this, which is hand drawn, right? Remember that thing?
Yeah. Wow, that thing's big.
Yeah, it's huge. So, and I run out of space to put all these things. So it's good to, everything's just on file on the iPad, and it's like one of the larger iPads, right? It's 12, 13 inches, whatever. So
What? We just got the wimpy little one, I think, right?
Yeah. But
Really?
Your was using that system, remember?
Yeah, I don't know if I even
Remember
have ever
that
used
system
my
that Gear was
iPad
doing?
to draw on or anything. But, you know, I always think like that maybe someone would use something like, what was that thing Gear was using?
It was some kind of tablet. It was
Tablet or
insane.
Illustrator. Was it something to do with
I
Illustrator?
think it was an Illustrator.
Do you recommend any programs for like the traditional computer sense?
Yeah, so pretty much everything I've done, like let's say it's any of the Beyond the Vault or whatever, typically a lot of that stuff starts out as a sketch, and I'll either scan it or photograph it, put it in, and then I'll trace it off in Illustrator. And then you add textures and layers and stuff in Photoshop. So it all kind of goes through this process of starting out with an actual drawing and then getting kind of cleaned up. Because there's a certain way that I kind of want things to look. And Illustrator for the longest time was that way. And now I'm kind of blending that more with the kind of the Procreate thing. So it can feel more hand-drawn. Like it's like the difference between the shirt you're wearing, that's all Illustrator, and the new download shirt. That was drawn on the iPad.
Everyone got that download, or I don't know if you can see my shirt. Probably
Yeah.
not. People really have been asking a lot about this shirt, so I think we should probably repress this one.
I get a lot of.
We got a
compliments
lot
on
of
it.
comments about that one, Simon.
I
And
saw a guy today wearing a chainsaw shirt walking down the street.
did you ask him where'd he get it?
No, he was outside. I was like, of course it's today that I see somebody wearing a Skinny Puppy shirt.
I wonder if that was like his brother's shirt, or it came back from an old gig long time ago,
I don't know.
Or-
It
or-
looked kind of newish.
or if he bought it on Yonge Street in one of the in one of those
yeah.
shops.
Yeah, I miss those places.
So
But there's still a couple of those, actually.
the more I think about it, this computer design might be good for that patch idea we're talking about.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So
That's the hard thing. It's with embroidery and everything. That's why I was shocked when you were showing me all the hats. I was like, because of the stuff we've been going through with Artifact for the other stuff,
Right.
I was like, what's the problem with all this?
So the toque, for those of you on Patreon land, The toque, that's a Canadian word. What do in America they call it a beanie. They do not know what the word toque is. You'll be like, toque? Yes, Kelly, our friend sitting here. What the hell is a toque? Okay, so she's wearing one. She's wearing one. Oh, that's funny. So the toque that we made for the download single, 44 Days, offered some challenges in the design, in the fact that it was being sewn into a toque, and the design was proving to be too I think he's worked his way around that and got the solution now. So finally it's come to a solution, but it offered quite a lot of challenges. I don't know why the hell that was, but
I don't know why. I think it's just because it's like different printers. They all have different kind of things they can and can't do, and the way that they're set up. So I think they just had to find a different vendor for it, really, at the end of the day. So
the hat that I'm wearing, if you can see it in the screen, I don't know. You always notice that I wear these hats by my friend Greg Mishka, and he went to Tokyo with us this time. He has a shop there, and he said, "Hey, I want to do a Kevin Key hat for Mishka that would be in this sort of way where it has an underprint and it has this overprint, and they're oversized and they're fitted, and they're really nice hats, man." And so Simon has been left with the duty to come up with what would be like the be-all, end-all Kevin Mishka hat. And everybody should in the comments or in the comments below this post, just like offer some suggestions what you'd like to see, and so that we can toss around more ideas than what we have already, just to make sure. We want to get everyone tied in with this. We're also making an exclusive Patreon patch. For many of you are already know about that, and many of you don't know, but you will find out about it soon. So Simon, you also, like, let's cover all the bases here. Most people don't probably know this. Simon also designs all the faceplates for all of our synthesizers that we make on subconscious communications. Mm-hmm. And I must say, what's cool is that you will make your design based on schematics that you're given, but you'll do it in a graphic, a really tight graphic sense. And then later, what that does is that the artist, Phil Gallo, who I work with, that designs the PCBs, actually then ends up designing a large part of the PCB around what Simon does. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can't really have, things be too far off from where you design, say, well, I mean, sure, we tell you where to put it, but it's like you may put it like a quarter of a degree off of where we would have it. So basically, Phil works in, it's another Phil too, which I love. Phil's a genius. That's another plus. But Phil and Simon, he never tells you that, but he loves working with you because of all of the way that you tie everything in. Right. And if you have followed his look with our modules, I also really love it too. The new BRAP module that's coming is probably my favorite, of course, because it's a little bigger, it gives you a little bit more space. But what are the challenges of something like that when someone gives you a schematic and has to be almost to the right on to the point, and then you still make it look that good? I mean, how is that hard?
I mean, whether it was him or Peter, it's like I'm really relying on kind of their expertise of what things are, because I'm not a musician. Like I was surprised. I went into Moog Audio down on Queen, I guess a year after we started doing these, and I had no idea how small these things actually were. It was like I expected them. I don't know. I'm looking at them large on my screen, and then when you actually see them in real life, you're like, "Holy shit! How do your fingers work with these?" And the challenge is, it's great because he gives me like a schematic, so I basically can lock everything in, and you just kind of work with it to make that mixture of readability, usability versus making it look a bit different than a Roland product or a Moog or whatever, right? So and trying to keep it within the kind of this world that we've built. So the first ones were a lot more kind of messy and organic, and then we've really kind of tied it in, and this whole kind of Planet of the Apes vibe, and just everything's very clean, and I'm really digging it. Yeah.
So I think I interrupted you earlier when you said after you take it out of the iPad, you like to take it into your computer and start working on programs there. What is the methodology from beyond then? How do you finish a project?
Yeah, so what I do is I tend to, when I work on things, put far too much in. And then what I do is then I bring it into let's say Photoshop. And then I'll start to kind of play with contrasts and to play with depth of field, things like that, colors. Sometimes the colors that I'll start out with are completely not what they end up with. And you end up just kind of massaging it in, or like, the old thing about like carving soapstone and whatever's in there is going to eventually show itself. And that kind of sometimes happens. But yeah, you just kind of work away, chip away at the layers, and then if it's a project with you, then you'll come back with kind of your opinions on things or where you'd like to see it go, and then I have to kind of go back and forth and try to kind of work with that. And it's always interesting to see where things end up. Like it's kind of funny. It's like what you were talking about with Ken last week about like just the surprise at the end of it, like how the whole you start out on a kind of path, and then by the end, sometimes it's a direct line, and sometimes we're kind of like, what the, and it goes off. So it'll go into Illustrator, and I'll play with layers. I'll play with layers in Photoshop, and then at the end, it's done. That's what I love about print is it's done, and you can just send it off.
Well, I really especially like how you work together with Alan Yeager on. The whole how typeset and how important that is and how integrated. Someone gives you a painting and stuff, and it's like shit. You don't want to mess it up. You got to work within those confines. What is that? Is that something that you enjoy, or is there is the pressure on when that happens?
It was interesting. I liked Back and Forth 7 because he had that big painting, right? It was like a big painting, and then I had to basically do crops for everything. And then I laid out a bunch of type, and then I sent it to him, and I'm like, what do you think? And then he's like, oh, that's really cool. But then he went in and redid like the Skinny Puppy logo, and he did all the type by hand and stuff after it, where I had put it, and it gave it like a whole other level to it. So it's interesting when you're kind of given these things, and you're like, okay, I got to fit type in here somewhere.
Exactly.
And then how that kind of works. Because when you're starting something and it's all you, it's a little bit easier to start out early and go, okay, I want to put type over here. I want to put type over here. I want to do this. But when somebody just gives you a painting, you're like, I don't want to wreck this painting.
It's got to be scary. I mean, it's almost like I always hated like if you had a song and it was like, okay, you think you can put one more thing on it or one more thing, and then the one thing more you put on it just ruins it. It's like nope. So that fine balance of like barely, knowing when to draw the line is certainly a beautiful balance that you have always achieved with the things I find graphically, because I am completely Mr. OCD. Like if something isn't in place, I just, me, son. Am I hard to work with, by the way?
It's 50-50. Sometimes it's like the first thing you do, and then other times it's like Gort's spacebar. That was like nope. And then I'm like, here's the sketch that I did on a napkin at lunch. And you're like, yes, that's it. And I'm like, all right.
I remember that one.
So that was a bit difficult, but and then the have a nice trip was super easy after because you did what? You did one trip to Japan, took a bunch of photos, came back, and it was more kind of temple-y or had a kind of more of a funeral vibe. And then you went away again, and then you came back with this whole kind of idea of Jetsons and futurism and all this thing. And I was like, all right.
That's what Japan will do for you.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, I'm doing cartoons for Skinny Puppy. Wow.
I know. So I don't know, what's on your mind these days?
What's on my mind? Summer's on my mind. It's been a long, rainy spring. I don't know. It's funny. I just kind of, like I said, I got done just doing the Pink Dot stuff, and I did a bunch of posters because they're going to be coming out on a tour in the fall. So yeah, there's that, and then just getting this book done so I can finally say it's done.
That's awesome. My last thing I want to talk to you about is like more of a personal thing. It's like kind of a thing me and you are both know about, and what we've been going through in our lives lately. And it's like Simon lost his wife a few years back, and I was very crushed when that happened very suddenly. And then your son was stricken with cancer simultaneously. Yeah. I mean, talk about a double blow in life, and it's like now your son's doing well, right?
Yeah, he's been doing great.
Great to hear, man.
He's 13 now. He's crazy. He's been really doing good. It's been funny because every time that we've done like a big body of work together, that's been when things I've kind of needed to take my mind off of the life things. They just magically, I don't know, you show up like some kind of avatar. It's weird.
Well, I think we do that for each other because like there's a magic behind talking with someone about something creative and taking your mind off something that's dragging you down. And quite often, Simon, you and I do that. And so like what is your best advice for somebody to like move forward after you've gone through an event like that, where you just know you've got some healing to do and you need to move forward? What do you do? What's your favorite thing to do to say just get out and do whatever it is that you need to do?
I like making things. I like being useful, and I love going for like walks. Like I did, I don't know what miles are, but I did like 14 kilometers today. So awesome. I get out, and whenever I kind of feel kind of anxious, like after my wife died, like I had to go out every lunch and walk because it just like I had this built up anxiety, and it dissipates. But I mean, it's still tough. I really like what you said. I think it was last week with Ken about having a room that person occupies. Right. And that really actually kind of hit me. I was like, yeah, actually that's true. It's like, cause it's always there. And, it's surprising how many people have been through the same kind of thing. We even talked about this briefly with Stephen Gilmore too. Because I reached out to him because he does his PSAs, those cheeky and he did one that was like, oh my God, can I buy this from you or whatever? And he eventually did a print and sent it to me. And it was just but we started talking about these kind of things too. And it's interesting to see how many people have kind of gone through these similar things. And I guess it's talking about it and just keeping busy, but keeping enough space to kind of deal with what you're going through at the same time. That would maybe be my advice.
For sure, talking about it is the best thing. And then, do you have a dog by any chance, or do you know?
Well, what happened was I had two wiener dogs, and then they both died, and then we had oh no, they were old too. They were like 13, and so they were like my wife really loved these dogs. So anyway, they kind of went away, and then we got another Cocker Spaniel, Springer Spaniel. So we got this other dog, and then after she died, I was out of the house mostly for like about 12 hours. So our dog ended up going to this wonderful woman who lives out in the country. She's got a bunch of other dogs, so she's having the best time of her life. And I just felt bad having an animal kind of cooped up in the house, and I was like, just dealing with everything. I just couldn't do it. So I've had dogs most of my adult life and when I was a kid.
It's funny, as I said that, my dog Connie came up and put her head in my lap. I'm like, okay, yeah, she definitely speaks English. Did you find it? I swear animals have the full-on capacity of understanding, but they just can't say the words back. They just fully must know everything you're talking about.
Oh, for sure.
But I find, like, as you were saying, walking and then also with a dog, seeing the joy of a dog running is also something that really enlightens me. Yeah. And I think that's what we're about to go do right here in Los Angeles. We're going to go do our daily walk, right?
Right.
Kelly is shaking your head. Kelly, it's not going to be a cliff